Hello, hello, hello. Today I wanted to show off a recent pickup that I was able to snag off of eBay for decently cheap because this is decently hard to find. There were some times where you couldn't get this anywhere on the internet. About a year ago, I tried to get it for $20 and lost a bid to try to get this magazine, and then after that, it wasn't on the internet for like a year. And then I was lucky enough to be able to find it again on the internet. And so I was able to get this for $13, and so I just wanted to show you guys what this is and why it's noteworthy for EU fans. So this is Star Wars Official Poster Monthly. It was a magazine that ran for, I think, 25, 30 issues, something like that. And this is issue number 16. So back in the day, before the internet, the only way that you could see, and experience the image again was going back to theaters to see the movies again, or buying one of these magazines that has stills from the movie, so that you can relive the movie with a magazine by it reminding you of, aspects of what was in the movie, right? So that's why people would pick this up and people would print these poster magazines because, it was the only way to relive the movie when, the only other options go see it in theaters, and, people aren't gonna go over and over and over again to see the movies. And, in today's world with this age of streaming, I could go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever once, and then I know that it'll be up on streaming platforms within like 3-4 months, So, but back then you really didn't know when it's going to come out on VHS. It could be years away, right? So these stills being printed on poster magazines were like one of the only ways that you could relive and experience the movie. So what makes issue 16 relevant? Issue 16 is the only issue in the series that has a short story in it. This is an expanded universe short story, and I'm going to pull that out. And one other thing I want to mention is if you look at the spine here, there's no staples like you would expect with, some of the comic issues have, all of the comic issues are stapled. It's paper that's been laid flat, staples in the middle, and fold it around. That's how all, standard single comic issues are. And so you'd expect to see, staples there too. Magazines and comic issues always have little staples down the spine, but there's nothing, because what this is essentially is one giant poster that's been folded into being a magazine. So I'll show you kind of what's going on here with this. So you open it up to one page, and there's no other pages that you can open to, because this is completely folded. So I will try to show this the best that I can. There's multiple layers here, so I'm going to get the one that has the story on it. So as you can see, this magazine folds into a poster. So it's kind of hard to show, but essentially here's one side. The other side has a huge poster from the movie, and then here are a bunch of articles. This is the article in question, CANTINA Communications. It is a prose fiction Star Wars Expanded Universe short story written by John Chesterman, and it describes a conversation that we have never heard before between Obi-Wan and Luke. And it mentions some very interesting things. I will insert an audio of me reading the story right now. CANTINA Communications. Mos Eisley is a frontier town, and the seedy barroom was crowded with creatures from other planets. Traders, dealers, freelance space crew looking for a job, confidence tricksters, and the outlaws from a dozen worlds. Somehow, Ben Kenobi and Luke Skywalker had to find a pilot who would take them on their desperate mission. His old tutor plunged into the crowd, and Luke was left on his own, wondering at the extraordinary variety of life forms around him. What were they thinking? What strange skills did they possess? Above all, which of them could they trust? The universe had already revealed some bizarre forms of life, and more were delivered every year. Travelers returning from the remote parts of the galaxy even spoke of giant clouds of gas drifting in outer space, which had evolved intelligence of a sort based on internal force fields. As a rule, the bigger and more complex the brain, the higher the intelligence. But most of the superbrains were too large to move around independently, and kept very much to themselves. Luke had seen pictures of some of them, like the giant algae beds in the Cygnus B system, and perhaps the strangest of all, the thinking ocean, which covered the planet Solanus. This was a sea so rich in chemicals it could carry out billions of thought processes in its murky depths, yet it refused to take part in galactic affairs and spent its time playing with itself, making and reforming elaborate crystal structures and brooding on its own identity. But that, as Han Solo would say, is another world. Here on Tatooine, Luke was faced with a familiar range of biology. However strange their outward appearance, at least they walked and talked. Although the bar was noisy, Luke realized that not all of the conversation was audible. At higher frequencies than he could hear, there was an ultrasonic cacophony of squeaks and whistles. Klatooinians were talking to each other across the room by vibrations in the electric fields generated from the leathery scales which covered their body. Telepaths bent their heads together in corners, trying to shut out the babble of brainwaves around them, and olfacts sniffed the air, conversing in what was probably the most sophisticated language of all, the language of smell. A human being has 5 million sensory cells responding to smell signals, and a dog, which is one of the best earthly olfacts, has 150 million. But on some of the dark planets, a long way from the nearest star or covered with dense clouds, olfacts have evolved which had half their brain devoted to smell. Using 3 different types of nerves in the same way that humans have 3 different light receptors in their eyes, they could smell in color and 3D. With their eyes closed, they could tell you not only who was in the bar, but where they were standing. There was no way to hide from an olfacts, and Imperial stormtroopers seldom got the drop on them, because their sensitive noses detected them long before they were visible. It was impossible to lie to them, because their smell conveyed the true meaning behind your words. An olfacts could smell anxiety, or fear, or trust, and as easily as a human can smell fresh-baked bread. Luke used to wonder how the olfacts with their poor eyesight ever discovered the rest of the galaxy, until Obi-Wan Kenobi pointed out that many forms of radiation produce smells. Ultraviolet light, for instance, turns oxygen into ozone, and it was the distinctive aroma of this that gave the olfacts their first clue to the universe. Mind you, the old man added, they are hopeless at spaceflight. Their chemical computers are slow compared to ours, and you can't smell anything in a vacuum. Which species make the best pilots? Luke had asked, and to his surprise, Ben had taken down his battered copy of the Universal Encyclopedia and opened it at a picture of an insect-like creature with huge multiple eyes. These, he said, I still need computers, but these can do the calculations in their heads. Look at their eyes with all those facets. Their brains have evolved to coordinate all those images automatically. They think mathematics. Trajectories and orbits come naturally to them, and they are the best astronavigators I have ever come across. They have a flicker fusion rate of over 300. What does that mean? Asked Luke. It's the speed at which they can take in information. If you look at more than 20 pictures a second, they run together like a film. But you could show these creatures 300 pictures a second, and they would still see each one as a separate still image. That's how fast they are. Luke remembered Ben Kenobi's words as he looked around the bar. What was that phrase the old warrior had used? Never mind what they look like, it's how they think that matters. But what were they thinking, these bioelectrics, telepaths, olfacts, and heat sensitives, whose world was a rainbow of different temperatures and ultrasonics who saw right through time? Not for the first time, he was glad that Kenobi and the Force was with him. And so that's what the story sounded like. That was a pretty rough reading. I'm sure that Marcel will be doing it way down the line, and he'll do a much better reading of it. If you don't know, the Revanchist on YouTube reads Star Wars EU short stories, so that'll be amazing when that comes out in a couple years. But this story, Cantina Communications by John Chesterman, is truly an interesting piece of EU, because in the whole series, issue 16 is the only one that had one short story. And that short story, in my opinion, is pretty good, but I'll save all of my thoughts for a review in my chronological expanded universe reviews way down the line. But that's why I had to pick this up, because, you know, it had a piece of EU in it. Now I just have to figure out how to fold it back. There we go. So this is truly an interesting piece of EU, because everything about this feels weird. Like, maybe there were lots of magazines like this back in the day, but, like, I'm young, so I was, like, very surprised when I found this, because I was expecting to flip open a couple pages, find the short story, but you have to go through the whole thing of unfolding it to be able to read the short story. So I was so incredibly excited to be able to add such an obscure piece of EU to my collection. This short story is... there's a couple listings still on eBay. It'll set you back like $35-$45 from what I saw. So if anyone else is interested in obtaining quite a curious piece of the Star Wars Expanded Universe with this really rare short story that was only in this issue of this entire series, you know, I would definitely recommend tracking this down if you're a completionist, because this is so cool to have. I just love everything about this. It feels so alien and exotic, the whole way that this unfolds instead of being able to be opened. Like, this short story is on a poster, essentially. I'm obviously not gonna put it up or tear it apart to get the posters out. I'm gonna keep it nice and intact because I care about the condition of my books and stuff. But I was just really excited to be able to get this. This came in just a couple hours ago, and I've just been so excited about this and wanted to share how cool this is. Cantina Communications, the short story by John Chesterman, is only in Star Wars Official Poster Magazine, issue number 16. Although it may, it is also available in a recent fan collection called Tales from the Galaxy, which collects some short stories, which is by Matt Wilkins, and so you can get that on Amazon and get the story. But, you know, I wanted to get it with the original pictures in its original format, so I was just really excited to be able to obtain this obscure piece of EU. So I hope you guys found that interesting, because I certainly found this very interesting and just really wanted to share it with all of you guys. But let me know your thoughts. Or is anyone else going to want to track down Official Poster Monthly Magazine, issue number 16, to get Cantina Communications? And if anyone's read it, let me know what you thought. I definitely think this is an interesting story. So that being said, that about wraps up my thoughts on this. I just got this in and was like, I kind of want to make a video about that. So I hope you guys found this interesting, and thanks for watching.